I'm pretty sure that we've all got a few items in our gear collection that aren't really dive gear per se, but are useful for diving nonetheless. This might be one of those things. This is the CanFish. It is a fishing camera. It's designed to film the action when you're catching a fish. It actually goes down underwater and attaches to your fishing line. So why are we talking about it on a channel for divers? Well, because I think it could be potentially useful for divers in a couple of different ways. So if you're a diver, you might find this interesting even though it's not really dive gear. If you're a fisherman and you stumbled your way onto this video because you wanted to check out the CanFish, then this might not be the video for you, but maybe it is. We both know that you need another gear-intensive hobby. That's what's really gonna make you happy. Your wife, husband, they don't need to know about it. It could be our little secret. Shh. Nobody's gotta know. Since this isn't really dive gear, I'm gonna approach this video a little bit differently. I don't know if I'm really the guy to be reviewing a fishing camera called the CanFish, because I definitely can't fish. I'll stop that. But I'm not gonna do any of that dramatic, cheesy, kind of sci-fi inspired, dark, moody product B-roll that I usually do in my videos. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna do it. As always, I was sent this product for review for free, but I am not being compensated. My opinions are my own, and the company will not be allowed to see the review video prior to its release. I had a few different ideas on how this could be useful for divers. The first thing, kind of obvious, as a drop cam. So let's say you're trying to locate a wreck that isn't particularly well marked on GPS or with some kind of buoy or something like that. You could send this down kind of like a shot line, straight down, fast, and then bring it back up and look at what you saw in the video, and you'll be able to tell, is the wreck here, is it not here? It could be useful for that, or any number of things. Because it's so simple and records for such a long time, I thought it would also be useful kind of as like an underwater trail cam, or even just staging it up and recording your practice sessions so you can go back later and see what you need to improve. Remember, everybody says practice makes perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. Practice just makes permanent. So it's important to make sure that you're not developing any bad habits. Filming your practice sessions can help with that. It could also be useful for dropping into holes that aren't really large enough for a diver to fit through, so you can see what's inside. So let's see how useful it is. As usual, I'm a big old nerd, so you know we're gonna talk about specs. So first of all, this thing doesn't use some kind of weird, crappy sensor. It does actually use a Sony sensor, which probably explains why, even though it's more focused on the fact that it can go deep and survive these crazy environments than actually being a good camera, but it actually looks pretty good. You know, it's 1080p, 30 frames per second, but still looks pretty dang good. And when all you need to do is see fish, the 1080p is plenty. The video you're watching right now is 1080p. Welcome to Fish Cam. Yeah, so with light, this thing is pretty good. Looking pretty good. The lens is 136 degrees, which is super wide, which means basically anything in front of it, it's gonna see, which is great because you can't always see exactly what this thing is pointed at. So it's good to have a nice wide lens to make sure you're gonna capture exactly what you want. It's got over 2 hours of battery life, 138 minutes of battery life, and it has a 16 gigabyte storage capacity, which equals out to around 6 hours of video, I found. Segmentation of the videos, you can set whatever you want. I've got it set to 10 minutes because it seemed like a nice round number, but you can put it basically wherever you want. Now, the good thing about the storage capacity is you can record more video onto the storage than it has battery life. So you're gonna be able to do a couple of charges worth of videoing with this thing without having to empty your SD card. It does feature hands-free operation. When it's on, you can actually control it. You can stop the recording or start the recording by setting it lens down, or if you want it to start Wi-Fi mode, you can put the lens up. The trick here is that it doesn't just work if you go like that. You gotta shake it first. It also has these green lights on the front that will illuminate the subject. I'm not sure why the lights are green. It probably has something to do with fishing. Maybe it doesn't bother the fish, or maybe you can see the fish better, deeper with green light. Not sure why the light's green, but when we're not really using this video for just generic video purposes, it's more about being able to send a camera someplace that you normally can't go. You don't really care so much about the video looking amazing. You care about being able to see everything that you could possibly see in that frame, because there might be something you're looking for, right? So I'm not really sure why it's got green lights. Maybe a fisherman can chime in the comments and let us know if that has something to do with it. I definitely want to talk about a few of the ways that you can go about rigging this thing up for diving. You've got a couple attachment points, but other than that, you sort of have to get creative. You definitely need some kind of weight on the camera if you're not going to be holding it or attaching it firmly to something. So I ended up zip tying on weights and stuff like that. You could hang a fishing weight off the end here, but then it's gonna move around in front of your lens, kind of negating the purpose of having a camera on the thing in the first place if it's getting blocked by a weight swinging around. So for a drop camera, I just zip tied a 1 pound weight on it and it worked phenomenally well. I'll talk more about the rigging for each specific purpose because it kind of depends on what you want to do with it. As a drop cam, I'd call it a resounding success. We pulled up to a wreck that we knew we could find, and I dropped the CanFish with a Dive Right red reel and a 1 pound weight zip tied to the camera itself. At first I held the camera at what I thought was about 20 to 30 feet, and visibility was good enough that you could see the wreck, at least the outline of it from up there. This was actually a lot of fun. When the camera hit the sand, I was lucky enough that it laid on its side pointed at the wreck. It doesn't get better than that. When I tested it as a camera to film my pool sessions, at first I tried the surface float included with the CanFish. Unfortunately, without any of the fishing tackle or weights to keep it steady, I was treated to some shaky ass footage of a pool Roomba. But then I got the idea to use these industrial strength twist ties, almost like a gorilla pod, and stick it wherever I want. In this case, on the pool ladder. That worked super well and I recommend it. I also recommend making a note of which way is up on the camera lens. Finally, I knew I had to drop this thing into some cave skylights. Kona doesn't have a lot of great spots for this because the caves are usually shallow, and being near skylights when they're especially shallow and there's surf can be particularly dangerous. However, I dropped it into both of the cave skylights at a creatively named dive site called Mile Marker 4, and I think it worked out pretty dang well. So I definitely think that there are divers out there that would find this useful, especially if you're commonly looking for wrecks. This thing could really save you a lot of time and money because dives, especially dives over 200 feet, can get expensive. So you really want to make sure that you're in the right spot, and the CanFish could definitely help you with that. The thing that's really interesting about this camera is that it doesn't require any type of housing to be waterproof, and it is rated to 200 meters, over 600 feet. So it could definitely be useful for deep technical divers. I'd like to take a second to appreciate my supporters on Patreon. They are the coolest people on the planet. I love them very much. They make videos like this possible. If you would like to be part of that elite group and get your name at the end of every video and access to some exclusive content, then you can follow the link to Patreon in the pinned comment below and receive my eternal gratitude. Thanks for diving with me today, and I'll see you in the water.